Hello, my name is Natasha Cole, and I want to thank the WELS Worship Committee for giving me the opportunity to make this video available. It is to help explain freeing the voice with natural resonance. It coincides with the article that I have written, Freeing the Voice, for the Worship the Lord publication. Let's begin. Improving vocal resonance and freeing the voice. To give you a little background on who I am and where I come from, I am a private voice teacher, and I also serve currently as the Cantate Choral Director at Manitowoc Lutheran High School in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. I am a former WELS Choir Director and teacher at Arizona Lutheran Academy, Huron Valley Lutheran High School, and St. Croix Lutheran High School. I am a member of the NATS organization, which is the National Association of Teachers of Singing. I am a music coordinator for the Pathways to Christ Women's Retreat in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, a 1996 graduate of Martin Luther College, and studied voice performance and choral genre music at Arizona State University. I teach singing. Good, free, balanced, natural technique. Each student I teach provides an opportunity to continue to learn how to best serve both them and, most importantly, the Lord. To God be the glory. I'd like to tell just a short story that I began my article with, and that is that God has given me 3 opportunities in the last 3 years to work with people who use public speaking and or singing for their profession. I have found quite a variance with the knowledge available to them on how to project their voice freely without causing damage. The first case that I have would be a pastor who preaches first service every Sunday, teaches Bible class, preaches second service, and has an additional evening service each week. After the services on Sunday, this poor pastor has a very hoarse voice. Over years and years of experiencing this sensation and these difficulties, he has been now prescribed to have vocal rest for his voice during the week. I also have had the opportunity to work with one of our WELS Lutheran Day School teachers, who, when filling a classroom with children, tries to speak over the children, uses very good classroom management skills to quiet them down when she is in control of the classroom. However, by pushing too much air through her airway and through her larynx has caused severe irritation in the vocal folds and vocal cords. So to begin, I'd like to give you some information that might be helpful to you and how to free the voice and resonate your voice, which means carry your voice over the space that you are trying to fill to the best of your God-given ability. A voice teacher once taught me that the human voice is the only instrument that you have one opportunity to care for. If you damage the human voice, you do not have the opportunity to replace it. This is an important concept, as many of us use our voices to the glory of God, both in worship and for our profession. We need to use our voices in a healthy manner each time we sing or speak. There are 7 components that need to interweave and work together constantly to free and resonate our voice. I'm going to begin with aligning your body. A slumping posture or a rolling of the shoulders definitely puts inappropriate pressure on the larynx, which is your voice box. It directly changes the quality of the speaking and the singing voice. When you align your instrument, which means your human body, you take your feet and you put them shoulder width apart. To prevent rocking back and forth or front to back, I slightly put one foot out in front of the other. The next thing you need to do is, after lining up the feet, line up the hips. What I'd like you to do is actually imagine that your tailbone is going to tuck under. What that does is it frees up the muscles in the front of your body to take the weight of your skeletal structure. Your 2 most powerful muscle areas that you have are your abdominals and your thighs. So by taking the tailbone and tipping it towards your navel, that's going to put all the pressure on the abdominals and the thighs. It will also even out the weight in the balls of your feet and the heels of your feet, so the energy goes straight to the floor. After your feet and your hips, we're going to widen our shoulders. I typically joke about the fact that we would want to take a ruler across the chest because we want this wide, straight, and relaxed. And lastly, here I have it that we are aligning our instrument by feet, hips, shoulders, and ears. Elongate the back of the neck, lining up the ears horizontally. So basically we start from the bottom and we work to the top. Here's 3 images that show alignment. The first one illustrates a line going straight through the body from bottom to top. One of the wonderful ways to communicate this is to align your body thinking away from the tailbone and up through your whole skeletal structure. This is where our chest is too far out in the front, and this is where our alignment is too rolled forward. So ideally, we would want this. Your larynx is your voice box. It hangs by the hyoid bone, and we want it to hang freely. We want the larynx low and relaxed when we speak and when we sing to resonate freely. Good alignment enables the larynx to find its ideal suspension from the hyoid bone in the throat. Another way that I like to describe alignment is thinking up. We want to be able to use our full height as we sing or speak without collapsing into our pelvis. So think about your head releasing away from the tailbone. All right, diaphragmatic costal breathing. When we take a look at this picture, we see the spine, and we also see the thorax cavity, which holds our heart and our lungs. And below that, there's a muscle that's in the shape of a dome when it is at rest. That is called the diaphragm. The diaphragm is used in our inhalation process. So all of these words basically are going to be summarized in one way. When we take a breath, our diaphragm goes from the dome shape and contracts, which means that it drops down. As it does that, as it's dropping, your abdominals will actually move outwards and forwards. When that happens, and when the diaphragm drops or contracts, air will immediately be vacuumed into your lungs without physically having to take a breath. Okay? That's the way God has designed it. One of the ways that I'd like you to practice the diaphragmatic costal breathing is, first of all, align your body. So we're going to set our feet apart, shoulder width, 1 foot in front of the other, tuck the hips under, widen the shoulders, elongate the back of the neck, thinking up and away from the tailbone. We're going to blow air through our mouth as if we're trying to cool off a warm beverage. And at the same exact time, you should feel your abdominal muscles relaxing upwards towards your rib cage as the air is leaving your body, kind of like the image of a balloon deflating. So let me demonstrate that. I'm going to blow out, and as I blow out, this area is going to go in and up. Here we go. That's the exhalation. Now, inhalation begins by releasing my lower abdominal muscles and allowing the navel to spring outward. As this happens, air will quietly enter my lungs via the nose and the mouth. And what I'm doing is I'm building a harness for my air, and I'm ready to support my vocal tone. This process should continue through each vocal phrase. So let me demonstrate 2 times in a row for you how it would look. I'm aligned, blow out, spring my belly button out, took a breath, blow out, spring my belly button out, took a breath. Okay, so I'd like you to take the time to practice that, because when we have proper breathing, that also evens out the airflow through the larynx, which will allow the larynx to work freely and not get constricted or irritated by too much air coming through or not enough. The next step to what we want to do in order to resonate freely is to lift our soft palate. I'm going to walk over here in the light for a second and show you where the soft palate is. It's right here in the image. To describe what the soft palate is, it is the back of the roof of your mouth. It's like a trapdoor, and it needs to be lifted to close off the sound wave through the nose or the nasal cavity. It redirects the sound wave to the hard palate, which is the dome of the mouth, in order to resonate fully and freely. So let me demonstrate. Lifting the soft palate will allow the larynx to vibrate and buzz, and it will allow the sound to go towards the roof of our mouth. That is an excellent surface to resonate from. It's kind of like an amplifier. It helps to amplify the sound. What should we do with the tongue? The tongue is a strong muscle that needs to be tamed for speaking and for singing. It can cause tension and damage in our vocal cords and larynx. It should lay relaxed and limp in the bottom of the mouth. I typically say as wide and as broad as the state of Texas. The tip of the tongue should usually rest against the back surface of the bottom teeth, and it should move fluidly with our lower jaw. I'm going to back it up one slide to show you the image of the tongue by itself. It's flat, it's relaxed in the bottom of the mouth, and it's moving with the jaw. Resonance. Resonance is the big term that this whole paper was based off of. Resonance is defined as amplification of the original sound. Natural resonance allows a person to carry their vocalization over the space that they are trying to fill, without pushing our voice or resonating unnaturally, trying to make our voice louder, raising the pitches and lowering the pitches, but using a throat effort versus using the mechanism that God has given us in our vocal tract. So here's a perfect picture to kind of show how this all works together. Your larynx buzzes, and it travels up the pharynx, which is the back of the throat. It can either come up through the nose and have a very nasal quality to it, or correctly, if we lift the soft palate, it's like a trap door that shuts off the nose, the buzzing sound will then hit the dome of our mouth. It will turn into a wave, or a sound wave at this point, and then it will exit the open vocal tract through the mouth, and it will resonate over the space we're trying to fill. So here, the sound wave is focused on the hard palate, which is the dome of the mouth, and it converts to a vocal tone. Vocal tone resonating from the hard palate allows sound waves to travel through the mouth and amplifies the voice in a relaxed manner. What does an open tract look like? Here's a perfect image of that. Here's our good alignment. When we lower or raise the chin, this is all bent out of shape, as you can tell. And here, this circled one is a perfect example of the alignment, the tongue and the jaw swinging together. Naturally, the tongue is staying out of the way, and it's giving her an opportunity to make that funnel type shape. That's a lot of backspace that will help fill the wave sound to send it out in a multi-directional pattern. So, the 7 components to freely resonating the voice are: number 1, align your body. Number 2, utilize that diaphragmatic breathing to even out the airflow which passes through the larynx. 3, the larynx or the voice box buzzes, producing a sound wave. 4, the soft palate should be lifted in the back of the roof of the mouth. And the tongue, number 5, should be flat and relaxed, moving fluidly with the jaw over vowel spaces. Number 6, the sound wave is focused on the hard palate, and then it converts it to the vocal tone. And number 7, vocal tone resonates from the hard palate, and that allows the sound waves to travel through the mouth and amplify the voice in a relaxed manner. I was once asked, what do you do for cheerleaders, and how do you get them not to scream and shout? How do you get a pastor or a teacher to not throat or shout over the top of their class? Learn how to use natural resonance in order to project. And the one recommended way to do that is to use vocal warm-ups. Vocal warm-ups are designed to help build muscle memory to connect the vocal tract so that all of these 7 components can work together, and so that you do not damage your voice in trying to vocalize or amplify your sound. Attached to this video are some basic warm-ups that I have put together in previous workshops that will allow you to gain muscle memory on how to open your vocal tract. By opening your vocal tract, you will relax the larynx. You'll relax the connective tissues and the ligaments around the larynx. You will learn to open up the back space. In other words, tongue and jaw, releasing naturally, lifting the soft palate, and allowing the sound to go through the dome of our mouth and then resonate freely. This is not only for singing, but also speaking. Even though the warm-ups are specifically designed for singing purposes, by utilizing the warm-ups, this will also to teach you to project your voice in a natural manner. Hope that this video is helpful to you. May God bless your efforts as you give Him your first fruits and speak freely and resonate freely the gospel in various forms. God bless your day. Welcome back to the second section of the voice workshops that we're making available through Manitowoc Lutheran High School. We're going to begin with a little bit of review. The first thing we're going to do is put our main focus on the Word, which, if we look on the screen, is Psalm 7:17 for these sessions. I will give thanks to the Lord because of His righteousness, and will sing praise to the name of the Lord Most High. The study of voice. We talked about last time how important it is to have proper body alignment. When we set ourselves up to sing, we want to make sure that we're supporting our instrument. So we're going to make sure that we have our feet shoulder width apart, one slightly in front of the other. We're going to take that tailbone and tuck it up to the belly button so that we're engaging the lower abdominals. Also, we're going to stretch to make sure that our shoulders, our back, relaxed and down, our chest is high, the rib cage is open, and we're going to elongate the neck. By doing that, we're not only going to relax the body and put it in the proper position, but because of those efforts, it's going to improve the quality of our tone and the support that we can use with our abdominals with the proper breathing. The second thing that we talked about was the proper breathing, and so we're going to review the breathing techniques that we did last time. We did the clutch breath, which is where we blew through the hand and released, and blew through the hand and released, and we felt kind of a tightening in the lower abdominal area. That was just kind of the preliminary so that we could get the connection between the lower abdominals and how they support the whole breathing mechanism. We're going to review now with the hook breath, and I hope that you all remember that when we blow out, the balloon deflates, right? So we're going to blow everything out, and on a hard K, we're going to pop that lower abdominal out on a K, and blow out, and release, K, blow out, release, K. One last time, blow out, release, K. We're helping to place that tone on the breath. Tongue and jaw coordination was super important, and that's kind of where we left off with the last video. We're also going to talk today about the importance of vowel placement. We're going to review the soft palate, the importance of using the soft palate, blending our chest and head voice, and then learning a little bit more about resonation with the hard palate and projecting our voice. Tongue-jaw coordination. I'm going to go ahead and play a note on the piano. Make sure everything's lined up, right? And we're going to make sure that when we do this warm-up, that we now start it with a sound. By doing that, that's also going to take a kind of a tight hold on the lower abdominal area. And so we're going to go he-ah-ee-ah-ee. And do you remember that what we need to do is make sure that the tongue is flat, like the state of South Dakota, right? And we're going to make sure that it's not only flat from side to side, but also from front to back. So the tongue is going to touch the lower teeth and even kind of connect itself to the lip. Bum, bum, ee-ah-ee-ah-ee, bum, bum, he-ah-ee-ah-ee, bum, bum, he-ah-ee-ah-ee. We're trying to start the process of the jaw swing, and that's where the tongue and the jaw work together as a unit. And when they release in the back, like how I'm demonstrating, that's going to release the tension, plus it's going to open up space so that our tone can come out and project. All right, the soft palate. We learned last time that it acts as a valve. It opens the nose from the oral cavity. It's an extension of the hard palate. And what it does is as we lift it, it helps to elongate the pharynx. and make it taller. And by doing so, it makes a better soundboard, so when the breath takes a hold of those vocal cords and does the jig and resonates against our soundboard and comes out, you're going to have a much more beautiful tone. So, what we did not get to last time, but we'd like to get started this time with, is engaging the soft palate and learning how to lift it. And so this warm-up is an excellent example of how to utilize the soft palate. I'm going to go ahead and put a pitch on the piano. And I'm going to demonstrate that we want to use that same before we sing to get those lower abdominals connecting with the tone. All right? And then on top of that, we're going to force the soft palate to do the work that it needs to do in order to make a proper tone. So we're going to go hung. We're going to hold it on the NG sound, and then we're going to descend on the scale. Hung, bum bum, hung. Do you see that my tongue and my jaw are relaxed? They're flat, and they're getting out of the way. Hung, bum bum, hung. This is so important to get this connection, because without the proper use of the soft palate, you can run into vocal cord issues. Plus, you can also run into sounding a little bit too nasal on your tone. So, this exercise, where there's a whole bunch of words in this paragraph, talks a little bit about how to relax that tongue, how to engage the soft palate, and one of the first things that you can do if there's, especially with a gentleman, that tightening with the throat, is we're going to relieve that by correctly training the tongue and the jaw and also lifting the soft palate. So we're going to speak hanga, hanga, hanga. It releases the jaw. Hanga. Now let's put a pitch on it. Hanga. 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 Where this begins to be extremely important is when we head from our chest voice up into our head voice by keeping that jaw and that tongue relaxed as we allow the resonance to hit the dome of our mouth and resonate out the front through the area that we call the mask. We'll talk about that in just a second. So, I just referred to the chest voice, which is our speaking range, basically, and our head voice, which is usually our high voice, right? And so what we want to be able to do is sound like one voice from bottom to top or top to bottom. And a lot of times, I'm sure without any proper vocal training, you know that when you get to a certain point, your tone gets kind of airy. With proper training, you're going to learn how to blend that area where the crack is in your voice, and so that when we go from top to bottom, it's all one sound, one tone. And in order to get that area blended, in the voice world, we call it the passaggio, or the passageway from the chest to the voice. We want to take the head voice and the chest voice and kind of build a bridge. So this is an excellent, excellent warm-up to be able to do that with. It not only continually works on the tongue-jaw swing, but also it's going to start to put into action the importance of blending the high range and your mid-range. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the pitch on the piano and demonstrate. Nice short staccatos and then some descending scales. When we get up to a certain point, which is right underneath the passaggio, then I'm going to change the warm-up a little bit, and at that point I'll explain the difference. Fla fla ni, fla fla ni, bum bum. Fla fla ni, fla fla ni, bum bum. Fla fla ni, fla fla ni, bum bum. Fla fla ni, fla fla ni. When you start to get into that range where your crack is, you can tend to sound a little flat and a little horizontal when you're singing, like for instance, fla fla nee, fla fla nee. We don't want to take the E sound up into our higher range. We want to modify it. We want to flip it vertical, help it to open the back spaces in our mouth. So a good example of that would be to flip the vowel on ni to an I. So it sounds something like this. Fla fla nee, fla fla nee. So once you get up to that point in your voice where it's very difficult to sing the E vowel without sounding a little shrill and a little horizontal, we're going to modify that vowel to an I to kind of bridge over that passaggio into our head voice. All right, so let me demonstrate one more time. I'm going to get into a range that's a little more reasonable. Fla fla nee, fla fla nee. Now I'm going to start modifying. Fla fla nee, fla fla nee. There I'm adding the I vowel. Fla fla nee, fla fla nee, bum bum. Fla fla nee, fla fla nee. It's really important also on those staccatos to make sure you're nice and short. I always give my voice students an example of kind of like raindrops falling on the pavement. Bing, 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 real short. Get off the F and the L, fla, fla, and then nice smooth legato on the knee. All right, next one. We would like to work on the upper range first. I know there's a slide coming up just after this that talks about the importance of going into the upper range first. So how do we extend that upper range and build that head voice and kind of work with that bridge through the passaggio or through that area where the crack is? This is an excellent warm-up. When we're in the chest range, we're going to sing it viva, 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 vi. As we get higher in our range, in order to take some of the tension out, we're only going to take the first V, and we're going to modify the whole warm-up by singing V-I-E-I-E-I-E. Notice that I drop out all the V's. There is a reason for that. As we get higher and higher and higher into our range, and I'll probably do a full, extensive example of this warm-up, we're going to then sing that top highest pitch on an ah sound instead of an ah sound. What that does is it gives us a little bit more space in the back with the jaw swing in order to free up the voice, in order to keep the tongue relaxed so that we can really resonate and keep it easily flowing through our voice as high as we can possibly go. And I always use the example of you want to be able to use what you have, because if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, right? Okay, so I'm going to start kind of in the mid-range here and give you an example. You ready? Viva, 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 vi. Viva, 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 vi. Viva, 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 vi. Viva, 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 vi. And I love to do this when I'm doing it because we're going kind of like an escalator. You hear the individual steps, but it's a smooth legato up and back down. Viva, 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 vi. Don't disconnect. A lot of people like to go viva, 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 vi, and separate the high note. Make sure you keep them all connected all the way through up and all the way back down. Okay? Viva, 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 vi. Viva, 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 vi. Now we're getting into that passaggio, so we're going to modify it. Just the first V and then the I-I's. Okay? Ready? V-I-E-I-E. V-I-E-I-E. Now I'm getting kind of high up there, so I'm going to modify that top pitch to an A. You ready? V-I-E-I-E. Watch my jaw. It releases the tongue in the jaw, gets it out of the way in order to free the voice so that it can hit the high note and come back down. All right? Excellent example of how you can get way up into your upper range as far as possibly can be. All right? Okay, the importance of working with the upper range first. Most errors occur in that passageway, the passaggio between the chest and the head voice. And then, I reviewed that it is an area which we call the crack in our voice. I gave a demonstration on this previous warm-up about arching over, coming back, arching over. Basically what I want you to do is make sure that when you go up into your high range, that instead of trying to reach up to the voice, the spot where you need to be, instead of reaching from the bottom, I want you to go over the top of the note and land on the top side. So each of those notes up in the high range, we're going up over the top and landing on them. We're not fearful of them because we're using our abdominals to support, and by getting the tongue and the jaw out of the way and releasing and relaxing the space, it should free pretty slowly. I've had a lot of voice students extremely extend their upper range by probably 4 or 5 half steps just because of doing that particular warm-up. Full voice is what I was talking about earlier. It means that the singer's voice should sound like one tone quality from the extreme top of their vocal range all the way to the bottom. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about vowel modification. With the fla fla ni, I said we're going to go from the E vowel to the I vowel, right? And then when we went on V-I-E-I-E-I-E, the ah, we actually modified to an to allow that backspace. So it is definitely an adjustment that you make with the vowel, and especially in the higher part of the singer's range. Singers should sing vowels that free up the voice. When the vowels are correctly modified, the singer experiences more comfort, the tone is more beautiful, and the air supply actually lasts a lot longer. With the aid of vowel modifications, singers will have fewer intonation problems, better resonance across their whole entire ranges, more carrying power, easier production of louds and softs, clearer diction, and a much better blend. So I'm going to give you some examples of the vowel modification that's appropriate. What I put on this particular slide is there's 2 aspects of singing that are directly linked to vowel modification. Acoustics. Basically, we want the best resonance there is, balance of tone, and also smooth registration throughout our voice. And then we want to be able to protect the vocal instrument so that all of the different adjustments with the larynx will go smoothly. That way we do not, damage our voice. So head register, definitely our high range, and that's when we utilize the vowel modification. I'm going to give you an example. I gave it to you before. When we sing E in this range, it kind of sounds like E, right? So what we want to do is we want to modify it to an I, and the higher we go, we want to modify it to an eh. And so what I do here is I love to give this example, but I want you to take note of what's happening with my jaw as I'm doing it. So I'm going to pick a higher note, a little bit higher pitch. So I'm up in my passaggio. E. Listen to the difference in the resonance, but also watch the jaw. It frees it up, and boy, does it send a beautiful tone right through the area in our face, which I refer to lovingly as the mask. There are many voice teachers that use that term, and that's basically the area above the hard palate. That's the resonating chamber that we need to use in order to project our voice. So another example of a vowel modification would be the oo vowel. The higher we go, we tend to tighten the lips and we tend to tighten the throat. Ooh. So the higher we go in our range, we want to modify that to an O and then to an ah. So here's an example. Watch the jaw and see what happens. Ooh. You can see the release. Obviously the ah is going to be extremely high in your range. Okay? If we're singing A, we want to switch to an eh and then eventually an ah. So let's go a little higher. Listen to the difference in the resonance just by releasing that space, the tongue and the jaw together. Lastly, I'm going to give you an example of the word night. We do not want to sing a night, right? Ooh, very, very shrill. So we want to take advantage of our wonderful language that God has given us and use a form of a diphthong when we sing that vowel. So if we're going to sing night, we want to hold a straight ah, and as we close down to the T, because of the diphthong, it's going to flip it to the I sound and then to the T sound, so it sounds like night. But we want to make sure that we hold it on the pure ah vowel. Night, night. See the example? That's an excellent way to use vowel modification. So the higher you go, the more you want to modify, and you're going to find that it really does relax and open up the upper range. This is really a fun warm-up. And I use this one as an example because in it goes zay la za la zay la za la zay la za la zay la za. We have the ah vowel, we have the a vowel, we have the ah vowel all throughout it. What this does is it focuses the tone in the head voice, but it gives me a chance to show and demonstrate vowel modification. When we sing zay, that is a very horizontal vowel, so we want to modify it to the first modification, which is an eh, as we go up the third. So I'm going to go ahead and get the pitch so we're in the right range. And we're going to go zay la. See how I modify to the eh as I'm pushing forward into the next pitch? Zay la za la zay la za la zay la za la zay la za. Watch the jaw as we do it. Zay la za la zay la za la zay la za la zay la za. Zay la za la zay la za la zay la za la zay la za. Last time, try it with me and see if you can get that vowel modification, that jaw to release. Zay la za la zay la za la zay la za la zay la za. So far in our warm-ups, we've used the V, which is very frontal. We've used the K, which is for the dome of the mouth. We use the H to engage the lower abdominals. Now we have a new one, a Z, and if you feel where the resonance spins on the Z, try that. Z, it's right behind the front teeth, right? And right in front of the dome of the mouth, right here. That's what we want in order to send the vowel into the right resonating chambers. The mask, right? So, in the importance of working with the lower range, this is an excellent way to show the full voice from bottom to top by working up through the high range first and establishing that, because that's the most difficult area to get the best control in. But then we also want to work with the lower range. Many voice injuries occur in the low range because of the lack of knowledge on how to use the lower range. I usually tend to talk about speaking on the pitches the lower we go versus singing down through your throat on your lowest notes. And a supported vocal tone in your lower range should match the tone quality of the chest and the head range as well. So we're going to look at a nice little warm-up, and notice that it starts with a W. What I want to demonstrate here is when we get to the M's and the N's and the W's for our warm-ups, we want to save those probably good at least 12 weeks after you start the NG hum. And after you start, like for instance, the viva, 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 vi, because what we're trying to do is keep the soft palate engaged and supported and lifted. And when you are untrained in keeping that soft palate lifted and you sing the word mom, we tend to pull our lip down to form the M, mom. By doing that, we're pulling the soft palate out of position. So we need to strengthen the lip pads to support the soft palate in order to keep it up as we're working with the M's and the N's, and especially the W's. So how do you avoid that, especially if you're just looking at this video for the first time? What I want you to do is I want you to take a deep, wide snuff breath, kind of like you just got a dozen roses and you're like, now I understand everybody does not like roses, so maybe we could think of some gladioles, right? So what I want you to do is really inhale wide to lift these lip pads to help strengthen them so they can support the soft palate staying up. So I'm going to give a lower pitch and I'm going to demonstrate how you're going to want to mix a little bit into the low range to try and extend it as low as we can possibly go. So I'm going to snuff. Why? One of the examples I give my voice students is, imagine throwing a dart at a dartboard. It's going to make probably a little bit of an arch, but it's going to land on the board. Same thing, if I were to do that same warm-up and let it go down through the throat as I'm singing my lower notes, it's going to tend to sound a little airy. I'll give you an example. Why? What I want you to do is I want you to learn, kind of like throwing a dart, we're going to send it out the vocal tone instead of down. And as we send it out, especially when we get lower and lower and lower, I want you to speak on the pitches versus sing on the pitches. Why? That's speaking on the pitch instead of he and not being able to sing it. Why? We're already getting kind of low in my range, but as you continue down, I want you to speak the tone, and I want you to send it out versus down. That's an excellent way to extend the low range and see how far you can go, because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? All right, the last thing that I want to demonstrate, this is something that I want to give the information for, because a lot of times people are trained inconsistently with what's called the belting tone. Where you would utilize a belting tone is if you needed to project your voice and you didn't maybe have a microphone, or maybe you're in character, like for instance a character in one of the musicals. And so when we develop the proper belting tone, this is really, really important, because there are two ways that people kind of approach this. One way is we're going to sing, 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 sing into our chest voice as high as we can go until we can't reach any higher. We're pushing our voice up like ma, like that. And that would be a really great way to damage the vocal cords eventually. So we don't want to attack this whole belting tone any differently than we want to demonstrate good vocal technique overall. So when we do the belting tone, I'm going to give you an example. I gave it to you last time. I'm going to give the pitch so I'm not off. I love using a little bit of Showboat, Can't Help Loving That Man, because it's kind of in the range. A lot of people recognize it as a belting piece. And so I'm just going to sing it in my choral voice, which is through the dome of the mouth. My man is shiftless, he's good for nothing too. All right, that would be the way to utilize it with our choral voice. Now, if I needed to belt, which is what we would do if we were playing the character and we were in the musical, we want to be able to project. So we're going to bring it into the mask. We're going to actually shift it farther forward into the mask. My man is shiftless, he's good for nothing too. Hopefully, Lord willing, that sounded like two different voices or two different tone qualities. The second one would be a perfect example of the belting tone. It's also kind of a form of speak singing, but when we get into that high range and we want to be able to project, it's very difficult to do that when you're pushing the vowels through the dome of your mouth. So we need to direct it over the soft palate and into the hard palate area, which is the mask, kind of the bridge and the cheekbones in that area. Or another example I use, especially when you get into advanced warm-ups, is behind the front teeth and the front of your mouth. Okay? So how do we properly do that? This is an excellent, excellent warm-up. And this would be a definitely beginner approach to teaching the belting tone. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick a pitch. We'll start on that B flat. And we're going to go as nasal and as nasty as we can be. And we're going to take our fingers and slightly cover the nose. So we're just blocking the air, not squishing. Okay? And we're going to go nee as far forward as we can. You're going to see that that's the direction we're heading, is into the mask. Now, because we talked a little bit about the vowel modification, we're going to take the E vowel and we're going to tip it to an I. And what that's going to do is it's going to not only help lift the soft palate, but it's also going to send the vowel to the front, and then we want to stay consistent as we're going down the scale in that frontal area. All right? So I'm going to demonstrate. Ready? The resonance is out here. Ready? Real nasty. As nasty as you can go. Remember, we're going from an E vowel to an I. If you feel a little pop in there, maybe you even heard it in my voice, totally okay. Soft palate, wink, popping up. Last one, because now I'm in my head range. Now I'm going to be able to project. Before I was kind of in my passaggio. So that would be a really good way to demonstrate belting tone. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with everybody at the high school through the volunteering of coming to the workshops in the fall, and also for the choir to help me out. And God's blessings on your efforts on using your voice to the best of your ability and to God's glory. And hopefully some of the things that I pointed out to you will be helpful in projecting, right? Supporting, placing the tone on the breath, centering the tone, and also overall good musicianship. So God bless your efforts, and thank you for the opportunity. So that concludes our warm-up section. Hopefully this is a helpful tool for you. And if you are one of my previous voice students, hopefully this is a way to brush up on what you've already learned and kind of do some maintenance with your voice in order to keep it strong. What I've always told my voice students is that the breathing will always be like riding a bike, right? The posture will always be like riding a bike. Connecting with the soft palate will always be like riding a bike. Focusing the tone and centering the tone requires constant maintenance. And when you don't work with that and keep it strong and strengthened and connected, then you lose color, you lose focus, and you lose the ability to project your voice. So, God's blessings to you, and thank you for the opportunity to work with you.